Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. So, we are continuing along with the selection portion of the Building the Perfect NHL Roster series. So, as you may have seen, we've done all the strategy work, and then now it's just all about implementation. So yesterday we did the top four forwards. Today we are selecting the top two goaltenders. And again, keep in mind that we are selecting three altogether, but I debated doing all three at once, but I think it's important to uh, get this salary established and these two players established because two is a priority. A third is, I wouldn't say a luxury, it's part of the strategy, but it's not as critical in comparison to, for example, we so we did four forwards. We're going to do two goaltenders, and then tomorrow it's another four forwards. So we haven't even touched defensemen after those three streams, and I can't put a third goalie ahead of the defense. So, in any case, we're moving on to two goalies, and now just to give you a bit of a justification for why those top four forwards and then the two goalies next. Basically, so I've done a lot of work previously where I take a look at the impact of different players on team performance, and it's not advanced analytics, or it's not the same as advanced analytics. I was doing it in a different way that I use for my algorithm that I use for sports betting. And so it's a different approach, but the way that or what I've discovered through my analysis of the data is that more or less team defense, and in particular, or I would say, sorry, let me adjust that. So goaltending more or less contributes approximately 50% of a team's performance. Now, it's not exactly that. It might be substantially less because to separate goaltending from team defense is difficult. There's a lot of different factors, but altogether, I guess the simplest way to put it is goaltenders have a massive impact based on my analysis on a team's performance. And so first we need to get some goals, and that's why we started with four forwards, because you have to score, but you have to defend. So I'm going to the two extremes, the scorers, the goalies, and then we're going to kind of backfill towards the middle is essentially the strategy. So just wanted to explain that briefly before I start. And otherwise, give me a few moments here to pull, excuse me, a couple things up here. So just bear with me here. I need, don't tell me it didn't save. Okay, good, it did save. I mean, it's not all that difficult to go and adjust afterwards, but yeah, just the roster I saved yesterday to CapFriendly, and I just wanted to make sure that it pulled up, and it did, so that's good. Next, I need NHL stats. Because there's going to be, I thought before starting the stream that there's more I should do there's one other data point I wanted to have, so I'm just gonna get that as well. So I won't pull those up yet. We'll start here. Just give me 1 second to get things started, and then I'll be able to share screen. So just bear with me here. We want... should do the same reference point as I did previously. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Get stats. Good. It's only 2 spreadsheets, so that's good news. So I'm nearly done, just one more sec. Cool. Okay, so I do have it now. Just give me a sec to share screen. Oops. Okay, so what we have here are the goaltending stats from 2013-14 up to 2018-19. So I can close that now, I don't need it. Now I need to get rid of these commas. See, that's like stuff that I wish, why doesn't NHL.com realize that by including commas in the spreadsheet makes it where the spreadsheet doesn't operate properly when you try to do sums and averages and whatever. Do they not realize that everybody uses their spreadsheets? Why do they have to make that extra step? Just get rid of the damn commas. Anyways, it's just frustrating. Okay, so what I wanted to do here is get the league average save percentage. Reason being, because then I can actually properly evaluate the save percentages of the goalies that I'm selecting. Now, is save percentage the only factor you want to consider with goaltending? No, but it is largely, I would say, the biggest factor to compare. So we want saves divided by shots faced. 913 is the league average, and this is from like I said, 2013-14 to 2018-19. So that's a useful thing to keep in mind. And we'll open that. We want goalie expectations. We want salary stats. Where is it here? No. Must be salary stats. So again, remember, like yesterday, because of limitations in the ability to filter things on CapFriendly, we weren't able to get perfectly representative data, and the sample size is small, given restrictions on number of years that we can go historically. So, man, I got frog in my throat. So we just have to take these things with a grain of salt and use them as reference points, but not hard and fast rules. So essentially, for one of our two goaltenders, and I was going to say starter, but not necessarily starter with the strategy I'm using, the first choice goaltender is 5.4 million approximately. Second choice goaltender 3.5. Third is skewed, so really we're not even referencing that. So in total, approximately $9 million we want to spend on the two goalies, but I'm going to try to aim lower than that if possible. Again, factoring in performance, combined performance, things like that. So the top tier of goaltenders for performance from previous work I've done is .918 save percentage or greater. Point percentage we can't really, or we can kind of just keep in the back of our mind, so just a higher winning percentage basically. Goals against average I don't like to reference, but it's, it's something we'll maybe consider. Wins in general is something we kind of want to consider, so just a few different data points. And then the second goalie, 904 save percentage, and then the other data there you can see. Now remember going to what I just calculated, which was I can delete this now, can't I? So what I just calculated was the league-wide average save percentage. So average would put you just able to make the playoffs, all things considered, because in theory, if you outscore the competition, your save percentage doesn't necessarily have to be high. So again, that's more of a reference point. But if you just generalize it, you could say that to be at or greater than that amount should mean you're better than half the teams, which means you should make the playoffs because half the teams make the playoffs. So that's kind of the concept from that. But again, it's a reference point amongst a number of reference points, and so we'll just keep it in mind. Another thing I forgot to do that I wanted to do was we want to figure out which goalies have been consistent in recent times. So what I'm going to do is, so I could do the past 3 years, 5 years, and I was just thinking of maybe doing 4 years because of the COVID year. So we have half a year this year. We have almost a full season from one of the COVID years. And we have basically half a season from the other COVID year, I believe. 68 to 71. 56. So then this year plus one COVID year plus another COVID year is basically 2 seasons. And then we go back to, and last year was a full season. So that gives us 3 seasons. And I don't think I want to go further back, to be honest, because it's going to skew some people that are no longer as good at goaltending to seem better than they are. So I think 3 seasons is kind of fair. So in effect, it's actually, or 3 seasons worth of data. So so what it actually is 4 seasons that we're looking at. So we have this year, last year, the year before that, and then the year before that. Then we organize by save percentage. Let's filter out some definitely not useful information. So 5 games is definitely not going to be helpful. And that gets rid of most of the stuff that gets in the way there. So now it's essentially a question of choosing the goalies. I'll separate this over to here. Actually, no. You know what? I'll keep it all together. Now we want players, active players. We'll go. Actually, we'll keep it as this season because I think that's fine. We don't need skater stats. We don't need handed. Don't need clauses. We do want length. Don't need salary. That's probably good enough. Oh, and we don't want players, so we need goaltenders. There we go. Okay, and we will organize by save percentage. We'll eliminate the useless stuff. Wait, no, we'll leave it because I don't know for sure. So maybe if some goalies have been injured and haven't played enough, but they we'll do it by cap hit. Yeah, I just don't want to. So for as a great example, in theory, I could maybe want Carey Price, but he's played 0 games this season because potentially he's coming back. It seems unlikely, but we don't know. And then maybe although it's not going to be the case, but maybe I could have wanted him on the team. So, cool. So we've got some people to consider here. I think the best reference point is going to be here with the goaltender stats. And we'll only go back to the other one to think about the salary. So, again, one of the requirements of this whole series, and in particular the implementation, is to be realistic. So I can't choose necessarily these super all-stars with the best performance in the league. So as a great example, yesterday I would have liked to have chosen Draisaitl because he met all the criteria, but he plays a lot with McDavid. His stats are essentially the second best. So would it be fair for me to say that we could have that second best player in the league on our team? No. So that's why I started to choose a lot lower in the mix to get a fair selection for each tier of player that I chose. So yeah, and if you go back to yesterday's stream, but you'll also see it later on who I selected. You can kind of keep that in mind as you take a look at the players. So on that note, Shesterkin is a no, Sorokin a no. Also, they're more or less full-time starters. So for one, unrealistic to say we would have them. Second, we're not necessarily targeting starters. We want capable goalies who can play a chunk of games, but not necessarily full-time starters. So Allmark is possible. Francouz is maybe. So this is where we start to get into guys that we could actually consider. Vasilevsky's a no. Saros, although I would very much like to have him. He's one of the most consistent goaltenders out there. Still, he's too high on the list for me to consider. So I'm chopping off already 1, 2, 3, 4 of the top goalies in the league. Kemper, 5th, chopping him off the list. Hellebuck, I won't include. So, I mean, that's a lot of players that I'm limiting or eliminating from my potential options. So, from there, we can start to consider other ones. So, right off the hop, Varlamov stands out. My guess, I haven't looked into it in any great depth, but I believe he's at least potentially available to trade because of Sorokin. And so he's a guy that we can definitely consider. I really like him as a combo player for what we're trying to do here. So Varlamov we'll keep in mind. Going back up to some of these other guys, Allmark, I think he was just re-signed, if I'm not mistaken. $5 million per. What's his track record before? Kind of consistent, but kind of average. If you cut out, if you just take a look at all the years except for this year, it's basically 915, which is what we just discovered was slightly above league average. So he's not that fantastic, and I would argue especially not so given his cap hit. It's perfectly reasonable. It's a great contract as far as I'm concerned, but just not enough of a track record for me to be confident in him as the starting point. I should say, for a goaltender. So far it's looking like Varlamov. one thing I should comment on is he is slightly older, and it is $5 million. So it's not inexpensive. It's also not expensive. It's kind of right on target and reasonable, because you can't have nothing but young players, which is all I have so far. So, anyways, just something to keep in mind. And then it was 913 was the league average. And we're already there that there's not many goalies to choose from over the past 4 seasons, but essentially 3 seasons worth of data. So, so who else do we really, or can we really consider? Robin Lehner, no. Mike Smith doesn't play. Ranta is a decent option. Khudobin, how has he played? Because he's in the AHL at the moment. I think he's played well, but I don't know. No, not that great. So 899 save percentage. But otherwise, he's been a very consistent goalie. So is it that he's getting old and his performance dipping? It's dipping, and I don't know. It's hard to say. So he's probably not a good choice. Stolarz, I'm not confident in him. Gustafsson, same thing. Thompson, he's he's developed into a top or all-star worthy goalie. Excuse me. So it'd be fair for me to choose him. Unfair for me to choose him, I think. Crawford doesn't play. Dreger, been very up and down. Hellbuck can't choose. Jari, in theory, I could, but I feel like I shouldn't. So we're starting to get quite limited in our options. Oettinger is the same sort of story as Thompson. One of these guys that are Swayman establishing themselves as very serviceable goalies. So Ben Bishop doesn't play. Francouz I don't like as a choice. So really, I mean, it kind of limits our options here. So I like Varlamov not as a starter, but as a top goalie on your team. And remember, that's what we're trying to do. So 4 years at $5 million is a perfectly fantastic contract as far as I'm concerned. I'd be very happy to have that. And remember, our contract target is 5.4. So it's right there, and we could conceivably get him. So we are choosing Varlamov as our first goalie. Now, we are struggling, as you've seen, to then choose our next goalie. Now, let's, for interest's sake, have a look at his normal starting history. So he's somewhere around, well, as of late, 30 starts. Probably on target for about 30 starts this season. 40 previously and higher earlier in his career. I think he's got a few years left in him. Stats indicate that that's correct. So I would say you can kind of maybe, well, when does his contract expire? That's kind of a good thing to keep in mind. So he has, where are we here? more years left, so that's fine. We would probably re-up him on his contract at a lesser amount, so perfectly comfortable with that. And so I think a ballpark we can expect is 30 to 40 starts, probably skewed more towards 40 because he's our primary starter, I would say. So we'll peg him in at around half the starts. Now we need to find approximately 40 more starts between two goalies, but a chunk of them through the next goalie. So realistically, we're looking at, let's say something like 30, high 30s of starts for Varlamov. Next goalie would probably be high 20s to 30s of starts, which leaves us probably somewhere around high teens to early 20s for our third goalie. So we want, like I said, high 20s to low 30s for starts. I like Cam Talbot. I think he would be fantastic. But I believe his contract is a bit high for filling out the roster here. So where is he? 3.6. We have 5 already. So really can't quite afford him. I mean, we can. Probably in the end, I don't know, because we have to, total everybody, but it seems a bit high. So we'll pause on him for a moment. Maybe what we should do is actually start from salaries and then consider stats after. Craig Anderson, where does he sit? Now, somebody I would have liked to have considered as well as Frederik Anderson. I just think his stats aren't up to snuff for first choice. We could choose him as a second one, but I just don't. It's too expensive already. So Craig Anderson, 903. I thought he'd be better. And he's quite old now, 41. What else can we look at? Well, let's see some starts here. Brian Elliott, he took a pay cut for sure, so I think it's unfair to choose him. Do we have anybody else? Super inexpensive, low starts. Kochetkov, I don't think is fair, plus his sample size is very small. Copley, no. Gustafson, no. Thompson, no. Martin, no. Dalia, no. Hellberg, sorry, no. So, looks like... Is there anyone else on this list here? Can't choose Swayman, can't choose Knight. Lindgren, no. Grice, 36 years old, and we've already got an old goalie. We need to get somebody younger that can handle starts. Lankinen, not enough of a track record. Halak, too old. Smith, is he fair to choose? $911 is decent. Jari's the leader there. What was his draft position? Is he undrafted? Undrafted. Wow, good for him. And on that note, I mean, I skewed towards some sort of pedigree, so don't like him as a choice. I mean, you could argue that, you know, if you can fight your way into the NHL not having been drafted, maybe that's better, but I don't. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's not what I would want. Wedgwood, 29, where does he sit? 908, not bad. But not a great choice. Anybody else? No, it doesn't look like it from this page here. Let's go to the first page. Comrie, no. Samsonov, I don't trust enough. Rant has been very consistent, I believe. Because he was on the list above, at or above league minimum, or league average, sorry, for save percentage. So we'll, he's looking like the logical choice, but Martin Jones, where's he? Not good at all. We're not choosing Jones. Reimer, I know, was another good choice. 907. Smidge low. 34 years old. How old was Varlamov again? 34, actually, so they're the same age. Melka, I don't trust. Forsberg, not enough track record. Blackwood, 905, not bad. He's got decent pedigree. Jake Allen, I thought, yeah, he's right there too. And as of late, he's played for bad teams, so it skews his performance lower. 927, still not that great. I don't dislike him as a choice, but I don't think he's quite what we want. Really getting into the 3 millions. If I would, I'd probably choose Talbot. So I think we're a bit high here on price. Nedeljkovic, however it's pronounced. 905, still not bad, but not quite what we're looking for. Reimer's not bad. Ranta. It's not a bad choice, but I really, just my gut tells me not to go with Ranta. Let's see his historic stats. He's been good everywhere. As a backup, too, essentially. Also, he's kind of dipped this season, which means that we could actually be able to, in theory, acquire him on the team if we're trying to be realistic. 33, decent age. Man, this one's a tough one. Samsonov. I want to get someone younger. It's super tough here. But goalies, they're all like at least in their mid-20s. They never start. Yeah, they never start younger. Blackwood. Maybe save Blackwood as my last pick, but that would be expensive for a last pick with that salary. This is tough. Capo Kakinen, where does he sit? How do you spell his name again? There we go. 901, no way. I really don't dislike Reimer as a choice. I'd be confident with him, and even more so than Ranta, believe it or not. Even though the stats don't say that, so Reimer's 907 and Ranta's 913. But Reimer's been with garbage teams as of late. Well, the past 2 seasons, San Jose's no good. But he's been super consistent otherwise. I like Reimer. Even though it really I should be choosing Ranta, I think I'm gonna go with Reimer. Ranta 2 million, Reimer 2.25. Reimer's played as a starter before, I believe. No, not quite. No, he's kind of a 1A, 1B, however you want to argue it. Yeah. 2 goalies at age 34. I kind of like their personalities too, both of them. So, you know what? We'll choose Reimer. I think that's a good choice. I'm happy with that. And what does he have remaining on his contract is a good question. It might be expiring as well. It is. 2 goalies expiring at the same time is not a wise decision. So pause that. Ranta is also expiring. Everybody's expiring. Well, both those guys would be signable, so it's not the end of the world. And more or less, there's like nobody signed to anything more than 3-year contracts. So in all likelihood, we would be stuck with that anyways. So we'll go with Varlamov and Reimer as our 2 goalies. I think it's fair. Just to kind of bring it. Here, give me one sec. To show essentially what that's going to result in. We have him, and where is Varlamov? Okay, so Reimer is ballpark high 20s for starts. And then you could anticipate that Varlamov would be, what did I say before? High 30s? So high 30s and high 20s would equal, let's say, 28 plus 38, 66 starts. Leaves us 16 starts. It's pretty close. So we've got the bulk of our games covered, guaranteed with these 2 goalies. It's like I said before, so when I was talking about choosing 3 goalies, or well, having 3 goalies on your active roster, the backup plan is that you can rely on 2 of them. So worst case scenario, if you're relying on Varlamov and Reimer, I'd be perfectly confident in that. But when you add in the 3rd goalie, it makes it super stable for your goaltending. So to begin with just these 2, I think we're fine. But again, we want to be more than fine. So that's that. Now, what I do also want to determine is where we sit for combined save percentage. So we've got, where is it here? That plus that for shots against, and then that plus that, that did I take the right one? Where are we? Yeah, plus that equals that divided by that. So combined save percentage is a smidge below league average. But I would say I mean, it's as good as it gets. Like, I mean, what other choice do you have? And on top of it, remember, we're going back in years, which I believe the save percentage has actually decreased since that point. So this is probably above league average. I could check it, but I'm nearly certain that's the case, so it's not even worth checking. So combined save percentage between our 2 choices, Reimer and Varlamov, is perfectly good, reasonable. And that is the selection. So now, just to recap, we have from yesterday Pettersson, Aho, Reinhart, and Larkin as our first 4 choices for players, and in particular forwards. We have our first 2 choices for goaltenders, Varlamov and Reimer. at this point, we are currently spending 35.6 or 35.7 for our cap hit, and we have still 46.8 million available. So, man, can we really put together a good roster with that amount of money? Because realistically, we could have, maybe even should have spent more on these players. But again, remember, part of the strategy is the ability to negotiate better contracts, which I've shown, not necessarily proven in full, but have shown that I ran a correlation between salary and performance. It's not super strong, and was there even not a correlation at all? I can't recall. Give me a second here. Let's go back and check. Performance, where is it here? Each salary. Where was it? Each performance. Man, I don't even know which file it was under. Each performance. Age and goals. Yeah, so okay, that's what it was. So I'll just pull it up for interest's sake. So it was 0.5117 was the correlation between goals and salary. So I mean, it's a strong correlation, but if it was the only factor, I mean, or if it was, well, so sorry, we should say points was 0.657. So there's still a chunk that doesn't, or that likely doesn't have to do with performance. And so, yeah, there's other factors like age, reputation, negotiating, so on. So there's still a chunk where you can actually negotiate the salary down. So, anyways. So I think that's really all we have to talk about today. So we've got the start of our roster. It's shaping up nicely for what I would like. I'm very much happy with what we've got. Now, one thing just for interest's sake, I'll share this again. I want to get my bearings in terms of what we can spend on the rest. So we have 6 of 23 roster spots. So let's go 82.5 as a cap. We're going to minus 3 for the players that are extras. 79.5 minus what we've currently spent. 35.7 means we have about 43.8 million to spend on the rest of the starting roster. Divided by we have 6 players, 20 total is 14 remaining, divided by 14, so about 3 million a piece. So we can really actually spend a chunk more still on the remaining top forwards. So because tomorrow we're going to be going into 4 middle forwards, so that's going to fill out the second line, and then 2 of the third line. So in reality, we can almost spend towards 5 million for at least a couple of those players, maybe more than 5 million, and still have plenty of space to spend. So just wanted to have a look at that again to kind of catch my bearings, give me an idea of what we're dealing with for the rest. So it's good to know. So probably a couple more players, forwards in this case tomorrow, that will be able to sign up for around 6 million. Want to be cautious though, because we still want to be able to spend a fair amount of money on defense. And on that note, if we have 43.8 minus, let's say we spend on average 5 million per top 4 defensemen, it's 23.8 million left, divided by, what are we at? We at 6, 4 divided by 10 is 2.3 million per. Sorry, I do want to actually do this math, and you should hear me do it because I think it's interesting to have an idea here. So we've got 23.8. The final line's going to be about $1 million a piece. So 20.8 million. $20.8 million for 1 to 5 forwards and 2 defensemen. So divided by 7. About 3 million a piece. See, this makes it tough if I should do the defenseman next. To lock them up. You know what? So we're going to change tomorrow, I think. We should at least get the top 2 defensemen in the bag before we move on to the next 4 forwards. As much as I would argue the value of those next 4 forwards are more than those defensemen. I mean, all things considered, and again, I'm just talking about things generally. Or at least 2 of the forwards would be, I think, more important than the defensemen. Maybe only 1, but same thing. It's not all of them, and really we should lock up 2 defensemen, I think. So we're going to adjust, rather than the next 4 forwards, we should do top 2 defensemen Yeah, even top 4 defensemen. Nah, top 2 is fair. So yeah, tomorrow we'll do top 2 defensemen instead of what I've specified already, which is the top 4. So so we'll leave it there. So thanks for tuning in. I know that's a lot of just thinking and talking out loud, but it does matter and it is relevant to you guys. So anyways, so that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. Otherwise, channel homepage has upcoming streams. Should be 2 p.m. Eastern daily, except for Sundays. Otherwise, any comments, leave them in the comments, suggestions likewise, and we will see you tomorrow with the top 2 defensemen instead of what you would see at this exact moment, which is the next 4 forwards. So thanks, and we'll see you then.